Don't let the sun go down on me, yeah, nigga, yeah. Hello, everyone. JP Ward here. Oh, son of a bitch. You know what? Let's do the thing. Subscribe to my channel, like my videos. Ho hum, ho hum. Google me. JP Ward, JayPWARD. Google me. Here's the thing. I can say the N word with an A at the end of it. Because, for one thing, nobody's going to listen to this. And two, nobody's going to listen to this. So I'm basically just talking into my recording device frivolously. But in the case that somebody does find this recording someday, it's going to be on YouTube because as soon as I'm done with it, I'm deleting it off my device. But before broadband, which is what YouTube and MySpace and Facebook and Twitter and Twitch and smartphones and ho hum Wi-Fi and 5G and 4G and fuck G and UG and TG and JG. Before all this shit, when everybody could download a video editing app or go to the Apple Store and take their parents' money and buy editing equipment on their smartphone or their iMac or their desktop or whatever, or their laptop or whatever. You basically had to start off at the bottom if you had no money to go to communication school or film school or live in New York or LA and become a bum at a studio or whatever. And you had to work your way into regional markets, communications markets, radio markets, TV markets, and you worked your way up that way. And I got my start as Bob Backlund's assistant when he was running for Congress, which is a complete waste of time. But in the big picture, it wasn't because it got me into communications, it got me into TV. And it was a very minuscule level. It got me into an independent pro wrestling little group that had regional TV in the Waterbury, Connecticut area. And it got me in with a talk show host that had like a public access kind of TV show that went to not just one town, but like a bunch of towns in Harford County. So I was in these two minuscule little markets, Waterbury and Harford, in Connecticut here, which Connecticut's a small state, so in the big picture, it doesn't mean shit, but it was a foot in the door into the television and broadcasting and communications market, just doing these bullshit jobs, setting up wrestling rings and writing little bits and producing this and driving this one to the train station, driving this one to get coffee, driving as a production assistant basically, or an office assistant or a PA as they're called sometimes, and production assistant. And those eventually led me to get on air talent gigs. So I had this education in communication production and TV production and video editing and producing and all this stuff. And now I was going to be a talent. The problem was, well, this is just kind of a little side story, but once I became a talent, I lost all my respect with the whole crew because people didn't like how I performed as a talent. They liked me behind the scenes, which I probably should have stayed behind the scenes the whole time anyway. But it was fun, being a talent, and it still is, But, there was a time where you go from, little, a region of a region of a regional market to a state, the southwest portion of New England, the western portion of New England. And now you're in a bigger market. You're in, the southern New England market. So that was the next step. And I had all this momentum behind me. And the people that were in charge didn't want to invest the money in the deal that I had set up to get to the next step, which was basically what Paul Heyman was doing with ECW, and was buying. We were going to buy infomercial spots and split the time between a half hour wrestling show and a half hour talk show, and variety show or sketch show and comedy show, whatever. And it would have been this little cool little hour block of wrestling and comedy, and you can call it whatever the fuck you want to call it, the fucking Ozone Hour, the JP Ward Hour. I didn't care what you called it, as long as my name was on it, as long as not on the titles or anything, but just attached to it, So I got some credit, and capital wasn't being spent or didn't want to be spent or wasn't there to be spent, so the deal fell through, and my momentum was shot because not soon after, those two companies or those two shows or those two little production houses kind of dissolved, and I had to start all over again. And that was a lot of work. That was from like, I don't even know, 1998 to 2003 maybe, and I busted my ass, and I was like really into television production and everything, and I wanted to take it further. I wanted to keep going, um, but there weren't opportunities. The next opportunity was to go live in the mountains of Vermont and be a glass blowing apprentice and make smoking pipes and all that kind of stuff. So I did that for almost a year, and then it kind of went sideways and it just didn't work out. So I moved back home and was looking to get back into just the kind of stuff that I was doing before, independent wrestling and maybe some communications work and all that kind of stuff. And the lower level stuff that I had been doing prior to 2003 had now all moved to individual productions, as in a person producing themselves and putting it on this new high speed internet, high functioning internet, highly effective internet called broadband internet. Because prior to that, it was very difficult to have a video online. This particular vlogcast, which is being streamed on YouTube, all you have to do is press play. Where in 2000 or 2001, this 10-15 minute video would probably take about 45 minutes to an hour to download, and then you would have to press play. So you would have a video file almost, or in your player, and then you would press play. Where broadband made everything so fast and so quick that you were allowed to have streaming, and you could just press play, upload a video to a file sharing site or a video hosting site like an iFilm.com, which was like a precursor to YouTube, and then eventually YouTube and Facebook and all these websites that everybody sees today. But they didn't really understand how detrimental that was to legitimate producers who like lived the shit and like actually didn't want to just be a 3-minute wonder and make 3-minute videos. They actually wanted to produce TV, and they actually wanted to produce movies, and they actually wanted to produce radio and all these big communication gigs that kind of got consolidated or farmed out to amateurs, which is pretty much everything on YouTube now. And everything you see now is all amateur. The cameras are dirt cheap. Even, I'm not even just talking about your cell phone camera. I mean, you can go to New York City, and with 10-20 grand, you could have the same amount of firepower as far as a small studio as like a Warner Brothers. And that sounds like a bold statement, but you really can. There's a place near Madison Square Garden. It's a camera shop, and they sell professional grade camera and video editing equipment for pennies on the dollar. And you can buy that stuff and make a legit production or a legit movie, or have a legit soundboard and mix together music and everything else with an iMac, or a MacBook, and it'll be the exact same thing you hear on the radio or see on TV or see in the movies, or and now you just put it on YouTube, and everybody can do it. So I'm not against people self promoting. What I was against was having my job or potential job or future career being kind of ripped away from me from rank amateurs who didn't really do anything to like earn their spots. They kind of just either look good or, these editing techniques or things like that. And there wasn't a whole lot invested into what they were doing besides quick MTV cuts and good looks and makeup jobs and hairdos and tattoos and roids and, little hooks and stuff. And I was against being ousted from the communications business in 2004 by rank amateurs that kind of diluted what the business was and should be. And that's what broadband and eventually, Wi-Fi and smartphones and 5G and all that stuff. That's what it did. Is I was looking at it as a long-term career, um, and treat it like a career. And I did treat it like a career where everybody was just trying to just get quick fame and quick money and, and I guess blowjobs and quesadillas, I guess. I don't know. But I took it more seriously as a business and a job rather than just dicking around. Um, and it kind of lowered the pay scale for a lot of people, definitely musicians, definitely, would be film stars. Uh, mainstream media types will never be the same. You could probably still pull it off with being a film star. You won't get those big $20 million movie paydays anymore. I highly doubt it anyway. Like there was back in the '90s, or even like the early 2000s. There's just not the revenue's not being generated like it was with ticket sales and VHS and DVDs and all that stuff. That was kind of a boom to be an actor, but yeah. So it was kind of like a snowman melting, right? Like I was just, I was a snowman, a pretty solid snowman by the time 2004 came, and then it just started melting, and I started melting and falling apart, and then being recycled back into like the back into the water supply and the watershed and the air and the fog and the rain and the mist and everything. And I guess back to being a snowman now and really no idea what to do with it. Like how to like I don't know what to do. I mean, all I ever wanted to do was be in communications and be in film and TV and radio and everything. And I can't figure out the new style. I mean, I tried to for since 2004, 2005, and I don't translate to the internet. The way I look, the way I sound, the way my mannerisms, everything doesn't translate to the internet. And if the internet is the new thing and that's the only thing, I'm I'm pretty much shit out of luck as far as trying to be any type of media personality like I wanted to be as a kid in the 80s and 90s, I translate very well to many things, but the internet is definitely not one of them. Um, we went from having an audience of every week of almost a million people, potentially almost a million people, to having 16 views or 300 views or 200 views on any one video that was hosted on the internet of my wrestling and comedy and talk shows and all that stuff. So it wasn't worth it anymore because we were expelling all this energy and resources and we weren't getting anything in return because now we weren't just competing against two or three other production houses. We're competing against 2 or 3 billion other independent media producers on planet Earth. You see what I mean? And that's what broadband gave you and gave us and kind of just ruined my life. So I mean, if you saw how the way I'm living now at 40 compared to how I was living at 20, I mean, I had my own office at 20. I had wheeling and dealing and all this shit. So and doing the damn thing, and now I don't really do much of anything. So um, pray for me. I need a new career. So thank you. I guess.